just verify that the parking brake is set before you go ahead and remove the chocks. So we are ready for takeoff from runway 16, so I'll see you in a moment for our takeoff. A very warm welcome to the channel from here in Zurich, where today we're going to be taking the FlightFactor A320 down to Ibiza as Edelweiss Flight 268. Our route today is going to take us in a southwest direction to these waypoints here, and then we are going to head in a south-southwest direction down towards Mallorca, where we'll be following our star by then. So into the flight deck, we'll just go ahead and set our QNH to 1014. Our winds are very light indeed today, so we'll be using runway 16 for departure, and the temperature already in the morning here is 26 degrees. So let's start with the data page and just verify that our active nav database is current, which it is, from the 7th of September till the 5th of October. And then we're going to go to Init A, and I'm just going to enter the ICAO pairs, complete this page, and then come back to you. We will be entering the flight manually today. So here's our Init A page complete. Note that our alternate is Palma de Mallorca, using a cost index of 45 and going for a cruise alt of 360. So after Init A, we go to the flight plan page and we're going to enter our departure runway, so clicking next to LSZH, we'll choose departure and runway 16. Febit for Sierra departure, and we insert that. So let's return to Navigraph charts, because there's a few things that I just want to show on today. I think some of the new features, but we'll go back to features that have been existing for a while, and that's just to show you now that this is our SID taking us to Febit. Okay, so just before we start talking about airways, this next bit is better visualized if we just go into edit mode up here. So just click that on the top right, and the reason for doing that is after Febit, what I'm then going to do is enter Rotos as a direct, and then we're going to connect that down to Milpa using Airway Zulu 669. So let's go and enter this into the sim. So that goes into the scratch pad, and just click the next available line there after Vebit, and we'll just go in there and click next to Rotos, and what we're going to do here now is just choose Airways. So we've entered Zulu 669, that's going to go in there, and then I'm going to enter into here Milpa and insert that so that we can then go back and visualize it. So we're just going to enter that in there and insert, return back to the flight plan, and now you can see that we've got Vebit, Rotos, Badet, Ulmers, Vadar, Milpa, exactly as per that section there. Okay, and then the next part that we're going to go and do is go down to on off. So Milpa, Tango 14 down to on off. I'm just going to be a bit lazy here and just enter on off as a direct. So that can just go next to the discontinuity, and I'll just go and insert that. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do from on off is use Airway Uniform November 852 down to Verso, and that will actually complete a lot of waypoints there. If you can see, we go right down there just before we get to Mallorca. So we line select again next to on off, choose Airways, enter Uniform November 852 up there, and then we can enter Verso. Insert again, go back to the flight plan, and what you can now see is from, I was going too quick there, wasn't I? Here's Milpa, here's on off, you can see it's put the airway name in as well. Just scroll down there, and there's Verso. I'm going to leave that discontinuity in place. I can enter the star in flight, and I can just carry on and finish off a flight plan if I want to, but as I'm not going onto any online network, that will be absolutely fine to get flying with. I'm now going to go back to init B and we'll enter our zero fuel weight and zero fuel weight centre of gravity into the top right hand corner. And what we'll now do is we'll enter a block fuel here. I've kind of got an idea as to what we're going to enter, because this flight, typically in the real world, it averages out about 1 hour 40, so 8 tons of fuel should be adequate. So we'll go ahead, we'll insert that, and then you'll see these figures here change as it just settles down and computes the trip time, and that's the thing that I'm going to base some other decisions on in a moment. Okay, so right now this is forecasting trip fuel 4.1 tons. It's going to take us 1 hour 33, and we'll need an additional 0.2 tons for the taxi. That sounds fine so far. Add those two together gives 4.3, subtract that from 8, gives us, on the right hand FMS, gives us an estimated fuel on board on arrival of 3.7. Anything else that we should factor in? Absolutely. Let's go back to the Navigraph charts. Okay, so this may be a new feature here, the weather, and then you've got several options that you can add to this. I'm just interested in the wind barbs for the purpose of this next part that I'm going to explain. And we've set the flight level here that we'd like to view the winds at 340. So what are wind barbs? Well, they indicate the strength and direction of the wind. So if we pick this one here, near to Vadar, zoom into it as best I can, probably display best there, that means it's blowing in that direction, so that's more or less going to be a headwind, and each one of those little tails is 10 knots, so that's a 30 knot headwind. You can see again, got about 30 knots here, so I'm going to enter for this sort of first stretch of the flight plan from VBIT down to Milpa. Let's assume that we're going to get headwinds of 30 knots. So we'll go to the data page, second page, choose active flight plan winds, and we'll go to the next phase there, that's the climb winds that we'll talk about in a moment. So at Rotos, I'm just going to enter that. So when we access the cruise wind at Rotos, it's assuming there that we'll be at flight level 360 at that point, and I'm going to enter there 245 at 30. Why 245? If we just look at the map itself, and that's probably a reasonable estimation there of 245. 270 would be the horizontal, 180 going down, so kind of somewhere in the middle. So let's just go and enter that. Insert, and if we have a look on the left hand side, the unit fuel prediction, that's increased our fuel requirements just by 0.1 tons. We'll do the next section. So now we've got an idea as to what the wind barbs are telling us. We can probably assume that these are still blowing around about maybe 230. They're certainly not going to be headwinds. These are a bit stronger. Each one of these triangles is 50 knots, and if we then look for one that's got, there's one there with a little indication on there, so that means 55, that means 50, should have one down, if it's the same height, like this one down here at Bow Deck, if it's the same height as a triangle, that's a 10 knot wind as well. So down here, this one is 65 knots. And just before we go back into the FMS, you can see here as we get to Palma, if we were still at 340 at that point, we'd have probably about 60 knots then as a headwind. So let's go and find Milpa, because that's where we make a left turn, and that's probably where the wind strength is significantly different. So we'll scroll down and we'll find that, but note that that's in large font. As we scroll down the others, it's in a smaller font, which just means it's carrying those down as well. So it's assuming that the wind's still going to be the same there. So here's Milpa. I'm going to enter the highest of those values in there. So we'll go with 230, sorry, at 65 knots. So we'll enter that, insert that, have another look on the left hand side, and you can see that that's added on another 0.1 tons as well. Just come back here to Navigraph charts, selected flight level 100. Let's see what's going on here then for the climb phase. Not really very exciting. Let's round these up to 10 knots and we'll just call this 180 degrees at 10 knots, and then let's have a look at what's happening, say 220. Bit more of a strength, as you'd probably expect there. They're now becoming consistent with our flight level above it, so there's only 14 odd thousand feet between that and the cruise, so you would expect then that the winds will start to align and sort of blow in the same direction. So 180 at 10, and here we'll go with 245 at 30. So we've accessed the climb wind page. We'll enter the first one there that we said. You can probably abbreviate that as well, but I just prefer to put in the whole number just so that I know that that's what I'm definitely meaning. And then we'll go ahead and input the next flight level, which was going to be 245 degrees at 30 knots, we said, didn't we, at flight level 220. So we'll just go in there. Let's just see, in fact, if we can put 220 in there. Yeah, there we go, it knows I mean flight level 220. Insert that, and then have another look on the left hand side. So now it's really building up a picture. Now you can see that we've added on yet another 0.1 tons. So of course you can go ahead and use SimBrief and generate this, have it all in there at the touch of a button, but what I'm showing you here, certainly I'm sure you'll agree, it adds a lot more depth to your flight plan, a lot more understanding. Okay, so right hand FMS, so our EFOB has now gone down to 3.4. That to me, a little bit high probably, but let's go ahead and dispatch that. Here's our performance calculations based on a takeoff weight of 66.4 tons, which of course is including our 0.2 tons that we're going to burn on the taxi. Yeah, config 2 departure. I'll go now and enter those into the FMS. Okay, so here's our takeoff figures entered in there based on a takeoff weight of 66.4 tons. So I'm subtracting the 0.2 tons as taxi fuel. V1 there, and rotate at 146. At 150. Note transition is at 7,000, and it'll be a flex 65 using config 2. Okay, so there's our FMSs programmed, ready to go for our flight to Ibiza. We'll do flight level 160 then as the initial cleared altitude, and we'll go ahead and we'll put the left and right flight directors on. Refueling's complete, seatbelt sign, and we'll start the APU. Flap open, you can now hit start. Let's go ahead and switch off external power here. Note that the APU gen now shows that it's providing a load, 68% in this case. And disconnect from here. Just verify that the parking brake is set before you go ahead and remove the chocks. So we are ready for takeoff from runway 16. Just taxiing along at the moment, so fuel on board is now 7.8 tons. And aircraft's taxiing along very, very nicely indeed, 16 knots, just idle power. So I'll see you in a moment for our takeoff. Okay, so as we're not flying on any online network, we can assume we are cleared for takeoff as soon as we enter the runway here. I will just pause though because I need to put the terrain radar on my side. So I think we are good to go. Let's bring the engines up. Stop chrono. And let's go. Flex 65 SRS and runway. and rotate. Positive brakes, gear up. Keep the wings level, keep the wings level, there we go. Now I'm just going to go and pop in the autopilot straight away. Keep this display unit out here. And just watch the speed. So here's our left turn. Autopilot is following the flight director bars there. So 1200 feet, waiting for climb. Climb. So we're going to make our sort of 270 degree turn. Just see the airfield there. Let's go with config 1, sorry, speed checks. So it does put a bit of slat in as well, as you've seen. And config 0 then, speed checks. So what I should have done there, in fact let's just pop back to the flight deck. It's where we should be really, isn't it? We are making this left turn, but you see how the commanded speed is just slower than green dot. So I should have been a bit more aware of that. I think we'll get away with it. It is fairly close to green dot, but just something to bear in mind in future. Let's go ahead and done with the landing lights. Just getting these reflections, you know, like low light conditions. But this is 12.05 that I'm running at the moment. I know 12.06 is hopefully in the final phase of beta. It's currently at RC3, I think, as I'm doing this video. But I don't want to put any beta versions on this particular installation. It's a brand new install, so I'm going to keep this for best. You know, like when the family come round, you can't use that, keep that for best. Okay, fine, alright, I'll just go down the pub. Right, 1014, so here's transition, so it's not going to make too much difference there to the altitude, so pull, standard, and let's just check there. We are passing 7.9 my side, your side, and somewhere in the middle as well, that one. Okay, that's all good. We can disarm the spoilers. I normally just do a quick little blip on the hardware. It doesn't cause a spoiler extension, but that's just enough there. Weather radar's on your side, isn't it? Terrain radar my side. Let's just start to zoom out on these displays. Right. Climb winds. So how did that? How's that looking for us now? There you go. So it's matching the charts there. 20, 180-ish we said, didn't we? Blowing from the south. So that's good. Yeah, I do think that there is a bit too much reliance at the moment on. Sorry, I was just reading something there exactly that aligns to my method of thought. I think there's a bit too much reliance on automation. Automation is absolutely fantastic. The tools that we've got available to us, but sometimes just go back to basics, and then you'll, as I say, get a bigger depth, bigger understanding as to what's happening. So we're now accelerating to our climb speed. See again, the winds are starting to change now, as we said, so they were blowing from the south. Let me bring up the Navigraph charts. They were blowing from the south, and maybe 140 here. See what's happening. Where are we? On the way to Verbit at the moment. So 140, 180 there, they start to go to become headwinds. Okay, I think we've covered an awful lot prior to our departure today, so hopefully you've enjoyed that. Any comments or questions, do let me know. Always like to read them. The odd comment every now and then is appreciated. And we'll just show you our landing in Ibiza. Let's just get the ATIS for Ibiza, so we've got an idea as to what we can plan for next. So I am still here. Just talk amongst yourselves while you wait. 220 at 5, so we'll land on runway 6, not 6, 24. We landed on 6 recently. Welcome back everyone. Just been showing you some images there that I took during the cruise of the navigation display. It does show that the winds were pretty much as we'd briefed for. It's probably in the strongest now, straight in on the nose as it were, around about 60 knots. So we're just heading towards Pollenza, which is the first part of our star. It's a Pollenza star into Ibiza. And I've completely forgotten what I was going to say, but you're used to muting out stuff, aren't you? Just back into the Navigraph charts application, just showing you the winds there at 220, which they are around about 40 knots, and down at flight level 100, where they are a bit lighter. I've chosen 30 again, just round it up. Ignore that, that's a star from a flight I did several days ago. So you'll see again that we've brought up the wind data page, gone into descent winds, and I've just entered in there flight level 220 and flight level 100, as you can see, and the ground winds as well. There is of course a lot more that you need to consider when you're planning your flights, but hopefully today that's been a really good insight. I've certainly enjoyed it. I'm going to get busy now doing the descent, so I'll see you as we make our final approach for our landing down in Ibiza.
Above. 300. Minimum. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
Right, welcome to Ibiza everyone, and that took us 1 hour and 50 minutes. A little bit different to the flight time that we were talking about up in Zurich, and that's because it didn't know hadn't put the star in at that point, so it didn't have a clue about it. Okay, let's just dismiss this message, but quite pleased there with the actual landing rate. I've been getting some some landings that we probably won't talk about those. Let's stop the chrono, 1 hour 50 then. Flaps, spoilers, and just remove these displays to allow us to tidy up. Leave the turn off lights on actually. That's fine. Strobes off. They can go off. And make a right turn here to the main taxi. Just increase the power. And then of course we just need to switch off the weather radar and transponder. You'll note that I do not have a first officer script at the moment. I used to have one for the FlightFactor. I've just not used it for a while. So anyway, let's just do weather radar off, transponder. I think with that we are good. Just pop the landing lights fully in. Let's just bring out the data just while we are taxiing in, so stable approach, show reports. Ignore the flaps in position because you saw that they were clearly in position. Certainly when we reach the check height. Threshold crossing height of 60 feet. Okay, threshold distance, so a bit of a floaty, and pitch seems a bit high. Any centerline deviation, just slightly, 5 feet. Okay, pretty reasonable. And then we have fuel on arrival, 3.3 tons. That's fine. And what else? We spoke about the flight time. So I'm going to sign off here. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's flight. And any comments or questions, let me know. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you on a future video. Thanks again, and take care.
How could they say I was broken? How could they say you made me come